Hi, ladies. Mom Proof. We're back.
Hello.
The art of being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's it.
Here we are. Remember this time last year?
God.
We got our girls in school, in college. We were kind of recapping as to why we were doing what we do. That was hard.
Sad even a little bit.
I know.
There was some like grieving, but in like this weird way that was also like beautiful in a way. Like,
well, it was for me. Remember, my house was supposed to be all the way empty. Oh. You guys still have kids at home.
That's true. That's true. But it felt, I don't know. Remember, I just felt like there had been so much like tearfulness leading up to it. Yeah. And there wasn't the same tearfulness, but there was like an empty spot. But yet a blessing knowing they were doing what they're supposed to do. In this case, our daughters were in college. In other cases, kids were doing other things.
Teenagers.
Next.
Teenagers. It's hard to parent teenagers. We know that. And that all started with teaching them that they have to be uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay. And one of the things we were just recently talking about is being a brave parent. Like, when do you make sure that they stay a little bit uncomfortable and we don't jump in, right?
Ooh,
and as
rescue,
a therapist,
yeah. I mean, and Sandra, I love what we were talking about on the way down here, so I totally want to hear that story again for our listeners.
You want me to get in trouble?
No.
Well, because I think
all the names shall remain.
Shall remain in disguise. Because we talk about, rescue parents, helicoptering, lawnmower parenting, we've talked about. Yeah. But honestly, there's a balance, right? And how do you do that, A, in general, and B, when your kid is on the other side of the country?
Yeah, and then too, I do want to hit on that, though. It's like the rescuing or when do you interfere? And I think you have to have a balance. It's not like, oh, we're going to let you just fail and, too bad, so sad, right?
Well, that's good parenting. That's where we're supposed to be learning and sharing.
But
and that's why you have connections with other moms, other parents, your partners. It's important to establish those guidelines, right? In parenting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think you're there for them, right? But you need to let them do for themselves.
Well, remember when they were getting ready to go to college and we were like, did you do this? Have you made your doctor appointment? Did you get your medicine line? And we were kind of feeling that overwhelmed feeling that we wanted to do their to-do lists, but we didn't.
Well, you can't or we shouldn't micromanage, right?
Get you nothing. It delays the launching and, the whole failure to launch concept, right? And developmentally at that stage, 18 to 24, that frontal lobe, that executive functioning is kicking in. And remember, that's the final part of the brain where it's like problem solving, troubleshooting, forecasting, cause effect.
Right.
And so they have to learn, if I do this, this happens. If I don't do this, this is going to happen. If I speed in a school zone, I may get a ticket.
Wow, was that look for somebody in particular?
Maybe not.
If you speed, you potentially could get a ticket.
Correct.
Yes.
That's a cause-effect moments. And if you do that again 2 times, you might end up in court.
Right.
So that's going to be a good learning opportunity for somebody.
So when do you step in? After, let's say,
I wouldn't let him stay overnight in jail. Well, okay, good one. That kid, whoever that may be, would lose his or her car for 30 days.
You would have
I've already talked about that with my spouse.
Come on,
Gary.
that's tough.
But you think about that. I mean, luckily, these are teachable moments. Remember, we always talk about witnessing the struggle. If it's okay for them to sit in it, you should let them sit in it. If there's any danger that could come to them or another, you would not let people sit in that.
I mean, it's just using common sense.
It is.
Right.
But a lot of parents don't have that.
Or they forget it with their own kid, right?
Right. We do. And
we do.
We want to rescue more than we should.
Especially our generation, I feel.
Right.
I think our parents were the opposite.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's gone guardrail to guardrail.
But it's because I think we say, well, I had to suffer through that, so I don't want my child to have to do that.
A little bit.
And it's kind of the whole thing. Well, I had to walk 7 miles to school in the snow.
Both ways.
It's a thing, though. It is a thing. I think in all the years of therapy with my kids, that's the one takeaway I would share with every other parent.
Would that be the, literally, would that be the nugget?
10 because there were tens of thousands of dollars spent. So there are lots of other little snippets. But to really let your kid fail, you have to. And of course, if they're in danger, then you have to make a different type of decision.
Completely.
And that's where do they go to a therapist? When is it time for that? Do they need to go to a rehab center if there are drugs or some other addiction, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts? If those things are involved, it's tough as a parent how to know when, right?
How do you know when?
Yeah.
How do you know when they're not? Mine's 6 hours away. Hers is, let's say, an hour away. Yours 16 hours away. How do you know? Like, you don't have a litmus test. We have phone calls, maybe we get visuals. You get a visual, Jamie, probably a little more frequently. We get the phone calls. How do you judge that from afar? How does a parent know from afar?
It's really just instinct in your communication with them. I'm not going to stay up all night waiting for her to call me or wondering where she is or following her on Life 360.
That will drive you
I
out
have to be realistic.
Let go of it.
I hope that I taught her enough safety skills or enough common sense that she's not going to get into a situation. And so I have to depend on that, but also on just daily communication and just kind of, I like to go with my gut a lot. So I could tell by her intonation, the way she's talking, or just certain things about her if something's happening. But I have to be really careful and not to say to her what's wrong, or assuming, right?
That is
jumping in to say, oh, I've noticed this about you, because then I'm interjecting, like maybe she hasn't even realized something's going on, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, something's wrong with you. And
Yeah.
So I have to be really careful. But
Kathleen, you say it. If our kids are talking, are we meant to listen?
Oh, yeah.
Do they want feedback? How do you say it?
Literally ask them, do you want me just to listen? Or are you open to suggestions? Are you trying to problem solve with me? And we were talking about that on the drive here.
Right. Well, because she calls and asks for my opinion, and I give it, and then I get yelled at.
Oh, you're going to be in trouble.
I know.
Do you think they even have time to listen to our podcast anymore?
I don't know. Let's drop subtle hints and see.
Well, let's see what happens.
Let's see if we say their names multiple times.
But no, then I just said to her, I said, don't yell at me. I said, and if you're going to get upset like this with me, just don't call me and tell me, or basically just vent. I know not to interject my opinion, but you've asked for it, so I'm giving it.
You're asking. Well, remember talking about the Enneagram in our first 2 episodes of this season, and we were discussing what we are, and we talked about, wouldn't it be so cool to find out what the kids are, but more importantly, and we may not have time for that, or they might, but knowing their basic fears, their worries, and what gives them joy, right? And that's some of the stuff we talked about from the beginning, but nuggeting it down would be kind of cool. So if we knew, for instance, that daughter A has worries about, fitting in and struggles with that, well, then we need to remember that lens when we're talking to her. And if our, another daughter worries about making a certain grade point average, which I think they probably mostly, this affects all of our kids, the things I'm saying.
Of course, you bet.
But just the lens of that. We can't use our lens all the time.
Yeah, that's really good. I think parents should kind of take a sidestep and think about that for a minute. If we could get our kids to take that test, that would be really cool. Oh my gosh, you can barely get them to make their bed sometimes, much less
they have one
take
for
a test.
Though.
Okay, so we need to post that.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay,
let's
beautiful.
Do that.
Thanks for checking on that.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you said that. Just sidebar, Reagan was on a FaceTime with us, and she was like, we go, show us your room. Did you add any new decorations? And she goes in there with the phone, and she's like, I made my bed. And I said, well, I think there's some statistics that we've heard, I don't know about research, that most millionaires or successful people make their bed every day.
Well, the general said to do it, or was it the admiral? That's one of my favorite
is it?
commencement speeches. He wrote a book, and it's called Just Make Your Bed. And it makes sense, right? If you do start your day off with one small thing, you've then accomplished something. And for those of us that are ADD or ADHD, because I'm pretty sure I am the poster child.
Yeah.
For
I think
a
I saw
poster
that at
adult.
one of the doctor's offices. Yeah.
It's me. It's me. Make your bed. You accomplish something.
And you were doing a Taylor Swift right there. It's me.
Oh
it's
my God.
me.
Oh, I do love Taylor Swift.
I know. You were saying that's funny.
Well, yes.
You and the Kelsey brothers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so what do y'all think about, like, if we're burned out on parenting, okay, and they're in college, shouldn't they be getting it on their own?
They should be
some
getting
of us
it.
have kids at home. Some of us have kids that come back through. What
They
about the
should, but
burnout?
guess what? They're not. Or maybe not to the extent that we might want them to by now. I have seen such a huge difference in my last one versus my even middle one at this time. It just goes to show you how
At the
different they
20-year-old
are.
mark,
Yeah,
you mean?
at that, what they're accomplishing, what they're doing. And kids are just so different. What the hot buttons are, what.
That's so true. That's so true.
And you
So we
can
tune
burn
in
out.
you can burn out.
You can, but as a parent, you've got to be a parent for the rest of your life.
Yes.
You can burn out, but that
That
Don't
doesn't mean
fade
there's any way out.
away.
Like, that doesn't
Bam,
quit your
bam.
job.
You can't quit.
You can't. So what do we do to refresh? We take time. We kind of.
Find your people.
We talked about that last episode too. Is really finding space as a parent to take care of yourself, to model that behavior. Right? For our kids. If they're feeling stressed, instead of offering the advice, just listen.
Just listen.
So we should do this.
But how about when we're feeling stressed? What are we doing for ourselves?
Well, you have to take care of yourself, or else it's going to reflect back,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
going to come out in the way you answer. It's
Completely.
going to come out
Short.
in your
tone.
your
and-
tone. Everything is going to be affected. So
Yeah. Do you think that is something they pick up on even from their, self-absorbed state that
they
they're in?
definitely pick it up.
I think so.
I do too.
I mean, my son will tell me, like,
well, especially your kid.
Yeah.
He's so like.
I mean, I know when I'm in a snappy mood.
yeah. What
you
was
know?
his aha the other? Didn't he have an aha you were sharing with us about? He got in the car, and then he was like,
well, he's always telling me about, he's like, what do you do when have you ever felt angry at someone? And I was like,
Never.
yes. And he said, well, what do you do to stay mad at them when you can't,
oh, that's right.
And then I
that was
like-
so sweet.
I was like, why? What are you talking about? He goes, you. He's like, I was mad at you, but I can never stay mad at you.
That is
then
that
he-
story exactly.
He
That's-
told me why he was upset at me. And he said it was because he felt like I overreact to certain situations. And
See, he's
then-
going to be a good little boyfriend, a good husband.
is.
Don't stay mad at your partner.
So I was like,
not
well,
healthy.
I was like, I'm sorry if I do that, which is true. Sometimes I do get excited
Sure.
and I react, and I'm Latin. So of course I'm going to be a little louder.
Latin hot girl.
Woo!
But I think it's, they definitely pick up, and I know when I'm doing it, and I try and catch myself, but sometimes it's hard. I mean, we're human beings. So sometimes I'll just say, hey, I need a minute, and I'll just walk away and then take a break, and I
Did
come
you do
back.
that with your first kid?
I did not. I learned that later because I would get upset at Sophia, and I would like go, take it out on her in a certain way, even though maybe she did do something wrong. But and then I felt really bad because I could have handled it differently. So then now with him, I don't, and my voice was making her just react, right? It was my tone. And I remember you said that, and that's what made me think about it, about our tone.
Yeah.
Tone is so important.
Yeah.
Can we touch on that again?
Yeah.
That is extremely important. We talked about that a lot.
I did learn
last
that
season.
from you in one of our episodes. When you were
didn't
talking
even have to
about
pay for it.
Yeah, I know.
Remember the
That's
mother
awesome.
ease? We mentioned it again, though. The fact that the tone of our voice, begins to get tuned out at a certain age. And that's just kind of the actual tone, like the level of our voice. Like my voice is different than yours and so forth. But then there's the tone we can put on when we're being short, a little disrespectful, impatient, etc. And, we do that with spouses for sure. And we don't like when it's done to us.
That's right.
So why would we turn around and do it? But it's funny, and I wonder if your last one does this. because we're talking about our younger ones. We've had a little experience in some cases 5 other times, and then you had the 6th one.
Some
more than others.
God, what are you thinking? I know you have a plan.
Well, he did good with you. But even my 2nd one will say things like, why are you rushing right now? Or, I mean, he just nails me on the exact things that I know I need to work on. But he says them out loud.
And do you stop?
Mm-hmm. And
You're
I
good.
go,
that's why you're a therapist.
I go, good one. You're right. I guess I was feeling excited, and I will own it. But it's funny to have someone pick you up on it that's younger.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. It stops you. You're like,
does stop you.
That's a good segue to being your kid's friend.
Oh, are we ready for that in some cases?
No, I don't know.
No,
As a teenager, I think not.
Not even right now for me. I don't know.
Right. No, I'm just getting there with approaching 20 years old.
Yes.
I can now really be a friend, which is the coolest part to me. And y'all are
talking about your 36-year-old friend.
My oldest. He is an amazing friend. I can call them with anything. It's beautiful when you can adult.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I had an incident, football carpool mom. And he's in the car with 3 people.
We love football.
I know.
Sports.
And he says to me, he said, bruh. In front of the other boys, he says, it's not that deep, bruh.
Wow.
And then I let that go.
And then your head spun around.
Well, I actually let it go because I was like, okay. I mean, did he just say that to me?
6th grade or 7th?
6th grade. And so then I said something else to him, and he said, cry about it, little bro. And apparently these are like terms that they use.
Yes, of course.
So I did say, okay, Colin, that's enough. I was like, you don't talk to me that way. And so then the boys got out of the car, and then I did have a conversation with them.
Yes, you did.
And I was like, you don't talk to me that way. You have to be respectful. And he was, sorry, I forgot.
Typical age-appropriate behavior.
Like, know your audience, basically, right? Like, who are you in conversation with when you're writing a paper?
Okay, a couple good things you really did, though. You did not embarrass him.
No, that was...
No, I didn't want to embarrass him.
I think that's a big thing in parenting. You gave him a minute to finish, and then it became a teachable moment later. And I wish I'd done more of that with my older kids when they were younger.
Yeah.
Not embarrassing them, waiting for the right time to talk, because that's when it really
was
works.
Out there. I know, but I don't think
it was different parenting. I'm going to go back to Dobson, which does any of his shit even work anymore? I don't know.
No, some of it's way
it's like what to expect when you're expecting.
Yes.
What mother has that book anymore?
I know.
Is it for real, other than you're actually going to have a baby?
I saw someone wrote something for having special needs kids, and it was called What You Didn't Expect When You Were Expecting.
Oh.
And it was brilliant. She had a little kid on the cover with her, and she was like, let's get past that other book. Because there's
so it's the flavor of the generation, right?
Yes.
And they're all so different.
Completely.
Brave parenting. I don't care where you're at. I think being brave, being respectful, having those boundaries and expectations are really important.
Yeah.
Parenting is not for the weak of heart, the faint of heart.
What was that book you were telling me about the other day, though?
The one that we'd like to recommend for this one about building relationships?
Yes.
Aww.
The
Path Between Us by Suzanne Stable or Stabile, Stabile. So I don't know if she's like Stabile, like that. But,
could be, right?
But The Path Between Us, it's a nice short little paperback. I thought it was very enlightening. Lots of easy to do understanding of yourself and others.
What was your takeaway?
The Enneagram is very valuable, and it will help you. This book would help you know your number and the other numbers and how they interface. And it was really helpful for parenting too. I mean, come on, that's one of our main relationships.
Well, one thing I did not realize about the Enneagram is that it really has to do with the way you grew up.
Yeah.
It's not that you were born a 7, which I thought that's just your personality.
It's your personality. And it kind of wants you to like extract from it. Again, we were talking about like those different levels, and we can talk more about that. And you definitely, guys, you need to do the quick survey and then read at least one book to help you understand it. But it's about achieving the best of that number. So some of the things you'll see about your number, you're like, I don't want to be that.
Right.
But that's not the point we're trying to make. Like, so maybe I'm like an overachiever. Most of us in this room, I think that's what made us so compatible is we really like achievement and it makes us feel good. But then we had variances on some of the others.
Yeah.
But what happens when we're not achieving anymore? If that's the only validation we're looking for, that can go silent at some point in our life. So is there a way to, quote, achieve? Could it be that you planted your garden and you got fruit? Do you see what I mean? Like, that's an achievement.
Yeah.
I don't have to get accolades for everything
It's really
I do.
shifting your paradigm too, isn't it? Yeah.
Good one. I love that word.
Thanks. I was at a dinner party the other night, and I'm such an 8 Enneagram. I'm such an 8. I'm working hard on it. But someone said to me,
best
"Well,
eight.
the best 8 I
Which is
can
part of
be,"
your
which I
8.
need to just stop.
Yes.
But I was talking about taking up golf. And so in this discussion, I'm like, I'm going to the PGA. I got it. I'm going to do it. And one of my friends' husband said to me, and he's a friend too, he said, can't you just play? Can't you just play golf? Do you have to try and be the best, do the best?
What number was he?
I don't know. I'm going to have him. I'm going to ask him to take
It's fun. We want
But it
everybody
was
in the
interesting.
world.
It was a stop moment of,
They nailed it.
yeah.
That was really, what did you say?
Can't
Do
you
you
just
remember?
be?
Did you just stop really?
Yeah, no, I said, whatever I do, I want to do as best as I can possibly do. But I also realize that that's not probably the most advantageous way to live for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm slowing down. So,
You have
and that's
been.
a fun
You have
process too, is to slow
completely.
down.
Feels good. Are you slowing down right now? Well, you've got,
Yes,
yes,
I think so.
and it's hard to slow down when you have a 6th grader.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm slowing down in a different way. I'm slowing down in the fact that I don't have to do 10 things at one time because I'm like a master multitasker.
that's
And
what your number said.
that's
That's
what
a 7.
drives
Yes.
me.
7.
And when I only have 1 or 2 things to do, I'm like, I won't do them. I'll procrastinate because I'm like, oh, there's nothing pushing me, right?
Good.
And it's the pressure that makes me do it.
Mhm.
So I'm learning how to just focus on 1 or 2 things that I like and really do it well, and just kind of and stick with it instead of just going on to another thing. So
That's cool.
so kind of slowing down, but different, but
Yeah.
still have to dream big.
That's a nice trait.
It's good.
Yeah. Do y'all want me to tell you what I'm working on? Like,
And we're APs too, remember.
Yeah. Oh, we are accountability
We're going to
partners.
come back to that.
Ooh.
Mhm.
I'm working on feeling that I'm loved without needing to know that from others. Like, there's an inner love you're born with. If you're Christian, you believe in that on a different plane, but just you are born worthy of love. And there's nothing you have to do to gain that. So that's something that I'm working on.
I love that.
Thanks.
That's
Thanks.
awesome.
Yeah, that's really deep.
That's a Jesus moment.
It
Take
is.
No harm in that one.
Oh, should we ask a question?
The question container. The
Yes.
QC.
I put some funny ones in here too now,
Oh,
ladies. Hope-
good.
or wait a minute, you drew last time. Maybe Sandra draws.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
get in there.
And the winner is
Hope it's kind of funny.
okay. Okay, here we go. What's the funniest or most unexpected thing your teen has said during a serious conversation?
Oh gosh.
And how did you keep a straight face while responding?
Oh, that is tough. That means you have to remember stuff, which is part of aging.
It's true. It's
Okay,
true.
hold on. So you're trying to have a serious conversation. God, do you have one that's more recent? Because it's hard.
Okay, this comes to mind.
Oh, perfect.
3 boys.
Okay.
I never knew what was going to come out of their mouth. I'm not going to say which one
Yes.
said it, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about his balls. In the middle of a serious conversation, he was like, "Da balls in that one," or "Da balls," and I was thinking,
So he just comic relieved that right
Yeah,
there with the balls.
and he'll do that.
That's okay.
It'll just come up. And
Oh
I'll-
man, now die. I know which
Yeah.
one I think. But
Yeah, don't
that's for
guess.
later.
Don't guess. Not that they're watching.
No.
or-
Yeah, come on, man. She's got enough family to give us
No.
more
I know.
subscribers.
Yeah.
I know. I'm trying to think of one comes
But
to
you gotta
mind.
have a sense of humor too sometimes.
Yeah,
Right? And that's nice.
I think mine, the one that came to my mind was Sophia got in trouble for going somewhere she wasn't supposed to. And I took her iPhone away and I gave her a flip phone.
Nice.
And so I'm like, really mad at her, telling her why I took her up to Best Buy to get the flip phone and everything. And she looked up at me and said, how am I supposed to text? Like, I was thinking 43770 is hello, but I didn't want to laugh. It was really funny.
That is
because I was like,
writing it on
that
paper.
is
because
funny.
she's sitting there staring at it going, that's all she cared about.
That's all she cared.
She didn't care about the rest.
That's great. How old was she?
She was a sophomore, I think, in high school.
Ooh, girl, that was a good one. Ladies, I don't know if I have one. I just remember trying to teach Reagan and Garen about the birds and the bees and having like both of them. I mean, this isn't saying, they were just like, I'm done. Like, this is like hands over the ears. Like, no one's doing this. No one's ever talking about that stuff. So it was more of just their physical actions. Like, no way. So yeah, it wasn't, they broke it up with just saying, we're not doing that with my body language. They were like, no. And I thought they were old enough, right? We're talking like double digits. So anyway, don't have the birds and the bees conversation too early. Is it still called the birds and the bees? I think we
still call it
human
that.
sexuality.
Oh gosh. We're not having an
Well, guess
episode
what? I
on
think
that.
they
We're
do it
past
at
that when y'all
elementary
can talk
school.
about that. I'm done.
Yeah.
Girls' menses. Anyway.
Okay. This was good. All right. So let's catch back up again. The book. Talk about the book, The Path Between Us.
by
Highly
Suzanne
recommend that.
Stiles. Billy.
Do an Enneagram if you have not.
Yeah, do it.
Parents and kids.
Yeah.
It really is helpful.
Yes. And try to have serious conversations without cracking up and see what happens.
Yeah. That's it.
All right.
Awesome. That's a wrap.
See you.
Thanks.
See you. Bye.
Next time. Bye.